Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your man's Leif. Today, what I'm going to do is just focus on. I'm going to do some warm up sketches and probably going to do character design of sorts. Um, I really didn't go on last week, so I'm making up for it this week. I'll be doing today's live session, and I'll probably post a process video on how I do some things. I'm going to be working out of Procreate today. So just so you know, so let me get this shared and I'll get it started. You know the routine. So give me 1 second. I got the music turned down pretty low in the background. I may turn it up. I'm always worried about whether or not they'll pull the plug on me because I randomly have that happen. So give me 1 second and we'll get it going. You can see, just making sure that everything's working on the screen. Oh, so yeah. Once. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. I'm going to try not to rush it today, just so I can get it rolling. And I'll show you some of the references that I'm going to be sketching from. So I'll be doing, I guess, some quick gestures off of some references that I take. And typically, how I gather my references is I will just find pictures or photos that I find interesting that I like, and I'll just grab those and I'll save them. What I do is I utilize Google Photos from my one Gmail account that I do all my art from. So that way I don't get it mixed up with my like family photos or things like that. And I'll give you a quick shot of what that looks like. And maybe I'll just talk about that for a little bit before I get going. Give me one more second so I can share this. Yeah, this is typically the longest part is me setting this up and then sharing it to the locations that it needs to be shared. And I am done. Okay. So first what I'll do is just show you just how I go about doing references or reference photos. Give me 1 sec. And so you look at the screen. So this is some references I started for like 80s references. I'm going to be doing like a series of art around like 80s hip hop culture and things like that. You can see I got my man LL on screen. And so I'll just screenshot some different things, different angles. And what I'll do is start designing from that. And I have a huge library of references that I collect in terms of just looking at designs, looking at what people do. I'll show you, like I get model sheets. I see how these things are constructed. I really study this stuff just so I can get a better understanding of how different people build their designs, how they set up their screens, just looking at all the different, you know, compositions, the whole nine. I'll go through all of this and I'll study these and I'll practice from them. And one of my favorite ones is one of my favorite collections is my model sheets and turnarounds. And as you can see, I have a ton of references in terms of model sheets and turnarounds, just so I can study how, different companies do it, different animation studios. And this is the type of stuff I look at on a daily basis. So when I nerd out, this is the type of stuff that I nerd out on. And again, it's just so I can build up my internal library on how I want these things to work. So anyway, I'll be doing some live sketches. Um, well, not live sketches, but just some reference sketches, just to loosen up. And if you got any ideas for anything, definitely let me know what you'd like to see me sketch. Right now, like I said, these are just loose sketches, just what I call my warm up. I've been drawing today, but I've been mainly using the computer, building vector art. And so it's still creating characters, but it's very different than drawing, at least for me. When I do vector art, I use a lot of the pen tool. So anyway, and I keep these real loose, real quick. The idea is just to get the language down, so that way it's like, how quick can I get a readable character? And this has nothing to do with likenesses. When I do warm ups, I'm not concerned about likeness. I'm concerned about readability, whether or not an image can be read with the few lines. So those are the things I think about, and I'll even fill in some of the gaps in the art, so to speak. Because the idea behind these is just to make sure that you get enough reference in terms of poses, so that way when it comes time to create some things, you're not at a loss. So in terms of knowing what you'll draw for the day, I know a lot of people run out of ideas of what to draw. um, I typically don't run out of things to draw. Sometimes I just run out of inspiration to draw them. But so this is another reason why I keep ongoing library of images, just things that I find interesting, whether it be movies, cartoons, whatever, just a variety of things. And again, these are supposed to be loose. These are, I'm showing you guys, but they're strictly for me. Has nothing to do with anything for anybody else other than myself, and just getting in the reps. And also, I may show you guys like some of the stuff I do, like for my own characters. I'll get in reps with those guys as well, just so I can get used to drawing them, or even just get used to referencing how I want them to be made, like how I want them to turn, or if I come up with some quirky ideas, then I'll pull them out of the woodwork and just start slapping some sketches on top of them. And again, as you can see, these are real loose. And typically what I do after I draw something, I'll just shrink it up in the corner so I can have more space to keep drawing. Like I said, if you got any ideas for something, just let me know. Uh, like it usually takes me a while to, well, not too long. After a couple of these, then you'll start seeing my forms get a little cleaner. And again, these are for me in terms of just referencing. And as you can see, I'm treating these like 1 to 2 minute gesture drawings, or if you were to do a live class, uh, Typically, you'll start off with 1 or 2 minutes of a gesture, and then you'll move on. So I kind of treat it like that. So that way I can just get in the habit. I've not done any life drawing since COVID has hit. So these are my life drawing substitutes sometimes. Not all the time. I was doing these every day at one point, but I kind of chilled off on that. But I do warm up every day, or at least just draw every day. And some of these positions I'm making up as well. And again, I'm just working on body movements, just body positioning. I don't take it too seriously. Um, and I like showing this stuff because sometimes people have the misconception that everything is a masterpiece starting off, or that there's no bad images because of somebody's Instagram page. I have plenty of bad drawings, or I don't even consider them bad drawings because it's just like doing push-ups. You just do them. If you can't get to the gym, sometimes you just do push-ups. Even if you can go to the gym, just do them. And those reps will make you stronger. They may not seem like a big increase all of a sudden, but if you consistently do them, you'll notice that you get better and better at it. And one of the things I noticed with the 80s hip hop images I have is that everybody seems to be crouching or doing something in a bent over pose, which is kind of funny to think about. And so also the good thing with this is I'll erase something in a heartbeat. I don't care about that. But it just helps you get your spacing down. And these positions are funny to me because I'm like, why are you bending over? And I may start to add like some just facial structures to these because these are the kind of drawings I personally like. I like loose, rough drawings. I like not too serious drawings. And then also, I'll try to find images where the person is not posing because I like those images a lot better. Because after a while, you see that people run out of creativity when it comes to posing. So I like doing that. Um, I keep saying I want to get in the habit of taking my own images for myself, my own reference, just to do different body positions, but I don't really like getting up like that. And like I said, as you can see, I'm getting a little looser with it. The more I do it, like I said, the easier it gets. And so I just keep doing them. And I got a ton of drawings like this, stuff that most of you guys never see. And that quick amount of time, you got see 7 different drawings, and just keep banging them out. And also these type of exercises help you work on your shape language. Because if you don't keep it so serious, then you can actually push the boundaries. A lot of time, Especially I know me, like when I was younger, um, a sketchbook was a rare occurrence in terms of when I could get a new one. So my sketchbook was like precious to where that I wouldn't really try. I would try not to waste paper. And the good thing about a tablet is none of that stuff matters. And plus, as an adult, you can buy what you want, kind of stuff, right? So if I needed a new sketchbook, I'd just get one. And and as I got older, instead of using scrap paper, I would just start using my sketchbooks as opposed to final rendering books. But a quick tip just to draw legs. If you do the outside like that, you can get the stance down and then you can just come inside and bang it out as such. And again, I'm using these specific references: 80s hip hop. I got a lot of these images off of a Facebook page. I can't remember which one it was. They had a bunch of hip hop pictures on them. A lot of these from New York. Okay. And all I do once I finish them, I just stack them and arrange them. And I typically try to get a full page of sketches. It really depends on what kind of projects I'm working on. And again, my goal here is not necessarily accuracy, but conveying a mood. Like I said, all these bent over poses. It's kind of funny. So I'll do a few more of these and then I'll move on to something completely different. Now these are probably looking kind of rough to you because they're meant to be. This is just my process. My goal here is just to get mileage. Not just to get mileage, but to get mileage and shape practice. You can see all I'm doing is just really just blocking these shapes in. And for me, I know it may look like, I don't know what it looks like to anybody else, but each stroke I make, for me, is just like taking a note on if I were to draw this, where would it go and what kind of energy would I have for the image. And doing stuff like this helps to get rid of like plain posed images, which I used to have a bad habit of. I still do it on occasion. I try not to. So my goal is to stay as loose as possible and add as much, just life to the image as I possibly can. And I have a reason for doing specifically 80s hip hop. Um, because there's a project I want to work on, personal project I want to work on with 80s hip hop in mind. So, and I want to keep it kind of loose like this. Again, like I said, everybody in all these poses, the one common theme is the lean. This particular dude is a stiff leather jacket. And again, you can see I'm overlapping everything I do. And I have no idea if anybody else draws like me in terms of the way they warm up or how sloppy they get, but I kind of don't care because this helps me get my thinking out. So put all my crouchers up here. in the corner. So as you can see, I got 6, 9, 11, 12. 12 different images. We do one more, and then I'll put a little bit more time on one specific image. And one thing that I learned when doing hands is that just draw your hands in space first, and then connect the arms to them, as opposed to the other way around. Um, I've seen other artists do that, and because I could never figure out how you measure it properly, and that was one of the things that they did was they did the hands first and then connected the arms, which kind of makes sense. So that way you're not stuck to a bad interpretation of where an arm should go. Again, this is not the best one right here, but all of this stuff helps me learn. Now I would tilt it just a bit just to get it boom, and then boom. So now what I'll do is, I think maybe I'll zoom in on, I like this one right here. I don't necessarily want to take time to render that particular one out. So what I did, I just created another layer. See my old layers here. That's another benefit of drawing digitally, is you have another sheet of paper at your disposal whenever you want. So I'm trying to think of what I should draw. And again, I'm just thinking out loud right now. Should do something with some action to it, or what? Okay, I'm gonna just scribble, and if there's no suggestions, I'll just make up something. So I usually do my heads in a variety of ways just to get the shapes down. And again, if you don't know what to draw, get reference. Get reference to help generate some ideas. Block that in for right now. I think I know what I want to do, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I'll do it, spread it out a little more. I'll take this arm. Maybe I'll angle it a little more. I want it to look like it's coming out of his bottom. And again, I'm just scribbling in the shapes until I kind of figure out what it is I want. And one thing about like doing awkward angles is you got to make sure that it reads well if you want to work with it. So I may abandon this pose. I may not. I don't know. And what I do, I just scribble it in, and then I'll go back over and add some form of anatomy for myself, just in case I decide to come back later to it, or even if I decide to render it. So it just gives me some idea of what my initial thought was. And all I'm doing right now is just adding my. I'll actually make the head slightly bigger. Maybe I'll turn it. We'll see what that looks like. And I usually draw a line down the middle, just so I know where the face is pointed. So I was thinking in terms of a Spidey thing. I've never seen Spidey do this particular pose, uh, so I don't know if it should stay. He's usually jumping through the air or something like that. So that's one idea. Shrink that down. Mm, I don't know why I'm getting Spidey vibes in terms of what to sketch, because I never sketched Spider Man. I haven't sketched Spider Man really since I was in high school. Will today be the day? So right now I'm just scribbling out a hand plant. I say scribbling. The thing with Spider Man, he has such like weird posing. That's what makes him such a dynamic character. Oh yeah, definitely, Al. Uh, I'll throw it up on the screen so people can see. Yeah, because he's so limber that he can do whatever. And the whole idea, I wonder who really pushed Spider-Man's dynamics to the limit more. I know back in the day, um, Todd McFarlane was doing Spider-Man when I was coming up. The guy that did Spawn, um, and he would really push the dynamism, if that's even a word, of what Spider-Man was and could do. Oh yeah, McFarlane was and still is a beast. And actually, he would sit a little lower than that. Yeah, so the head I have this way. Typically, his head will be kind of more upright. So it's like the one thing where he's crouching low, looking up, and his arm. What could I have this arm doing? Yeah, I would cross it over this way, but it'd be too confusing to read. Typically, he has it in the background, something like that. And another good thing about like, so I kind of do like scribble silhouettes, if that makes any sense. So that way I can get a sense of how it's gonna read, uh, and what it'll look like. I may actually look up some reference in terms of how to pose Spider-Man, to be honest, because it's been so long. Um, let's see. Found one image pose. And what I'll do as well, like what I typically do as well. So if I use reference, I'll change it in some way, depending on why I'm using reference. Sometimes the reference is for learning. So if it's for learning, I'll keep the same pose and not change anything, just so I can practice that pose, or maybe it's a particular style. But if I'm drawing to have my own creation, then I'll switch up the pose. I'll probably like do what I'm doing now, like scribble like how things look, and then change it after that. It's like, okay, I get it in my head, kind of how I want it, and then I can change the pose, and how everything goes after that fact. Just a lot easier to once you trained yourself on how to do it one way, then it's like, okay, now I can see how I can switch this up. And especially depending on if you're trying to get your own models, meaning it's your own version of a creation, or if you're trying to draw on model, meaning that you're recreating the character exactly the way it looks off of the particular artist you're working, whose style you're looking at. So it really just depends on what your goals are, um, and why you're doing it. And I don't know if I'm actually gonna render anything completely on this stream, because um, I have like other renders I need to be working on, to be honest. This foot here, make it more dynamic. I'll distort. I'll push it back like that, and then I'll shrink it. So, and a lot of times I'll use this as opposed to doing a complete redraw or something. It just depends on what I think is faster. Um, and so everything just depends on the what, who, when, why, where, and all of that kind of stuff. And since I'm drawing larger than a thumbnail, specifically just to show you guys, I always shrink everything down to a thumbnail, just so I can get an overview of like, okay, I'm really feeling this one. I like this one, that kind of stuff. Trying to think of what else I want to draw real quick, sketch wise. terms of how I'm feeling. And see, let me think. This is a circle. I want to tilt it back because for me, I have an idea of where it starts. And push the mouth a little more. So I'm just drawing somebody. I don't know what made me think of this. Drawing somebody waking up yawning. And again, I'm not worrying about drawing a particular way or sometimes what I'll do is this as well. I'll lighten it and just so if I'm really trying to figure out how I can stretch this particular pose. And again, I'm just circling, using circles as my blocks because I don't know what the character head is going to look like, but this at least gives me an idea of where his melon is going to be and the type of proportions, not the actual proportion, but just the type of proportions. And then it's like, I draw. This is what, and I did that with the arms, what you call a draw through, just so you can make sure everything aligns. And so if I were to take it off, it's like, okay, the stretch is more pushed. I pushed him this way up here and this way down here. Then I staggered the legs. But really don't want to do anything with that particular pose, not right now. And also the benefit of doing all of this, is that later, whenever you have ideas or you're looking for poses, you can go back through your own library of photos. And like I said, I have tons, like several hundred images that I've just sketched and scribbled just to practice this stuff. Oops, I didn't want to make a group. So I'm gonna just turn that one off, turn this back up, and get back to sketching some more poses. Okay, open layers. On the wrong layer. And then also, if you're just it just really depends on who you are. And typically I found that if I don't have a story for a character, then I'm more likely to just do this kind of thing where I'm just boxing them out and figuring out proportions. So a story helps give your character some life because now you know how you need to pose them, based on the type of character they are, the action, the adventure, or just a regular person. So, so I'll roll his sleeves up, like the whole typical bully roll your sleeve up kind of thing. Actually, his hand would be up higher. Change all of this, switch it to that. So now, as I was creating it, I started thinking of a possible story. Just little stuff. Actually, I'll switch up how I was gonna have his clothes. So you can have on a jacket still. He has on shorts. And you got on really loose socks. Loose socks are the worst. So maybe that's why he's mad. Oops. So yeah, here's what I'll do. I'll clean this up just real quickly, but it definitely won't be perfect because I already know the trouble spots that I'll probably run into. But all I did was just create another layer, and here's what I'll do for this guy as well. I'll copy and paste that. Then I'll blow it up because you can see he's really small. So I'll move him there, turn off that layer, dim him down, and then go to the layer above him. And this style, I'm just keeping real straight, clean lines. And this is a brush that I created in Procreate. So this one has what's called uh, Streamline on. And what Streamline does in Procreate is it makes the lines a little smoother. I actually usually turn this off because, like, you can see, like, right there, you can see how it lags. I don't like that. So I made another one with zero streamline so I could freestyle more. And as you can see, it has no pull on it. But then it means I need to have more control with the way I draw it if that's what I'm looking for. So there's a variety of ways to use it. Use the lines. Oops. Um, and actually, he didn't look aggressive enough to me, so I want to change that up. Show more teeth. And yeah, he looks a little more aggressive right there. So I went back to streamline just for the sake of speed, because normally I'd be erasing over and over again. And you look at what a balled up fish looks like. There, switch us back up. The annoying part about streamline sometimes is that you can't make quick strokes. And so I would almost make this similar to like a storyboard style to where it's more loose. And as you can see, side is a little rougher than the other side. Yeah, they went across there, but I didn't want it to go all vertical either. This dude likes layers. Again, give him some knobby knees. Yeah, yeah. All I'm just trying to do is just show you got some wax socks on. And give him a different shoe on the other foot. Some pennies. Thinner line in here. Go back to my outline. So when you think of a character before drawing them, how do you decide which style suits them best, or do you decide on the style before brainstorming the character? So, oh, okay. What's up, Al's daughter? Uh, so it just depends on if I'm designing for someone else or if I'm designing for myself and the genre. So like me just doing this is like, okay, I like cartoony kind of looking stuff. So that's why I drew it this way. Um, and so yeah, there's him by the way. And I'll shade him in um, just to give him some texture. Actually switch to inking. Yeah, sometimes you have so many brushes, it's hard to keep track of what is what. But yeah, so it just really depends on what I'm drawing for, who I'm drawing for, the purpose of the drawing. It's kind of wide open, just like, like design. Somebody like, oh, I would like you to design something for me. And it's like, okay, so what is it going to be for? Who's it going to be for? Who's the target audience? Um, And so that's kind of how I like to think about things sometimes. But typically, I figure that out in the thumbnail phase. I figure that out what the style is going to look like in these phases, right? Do I want it loose? Do I want it realistic? Do I want it fun? Do I want it? Yeah, it's all kinds of things. So you just have to decide how, like, how you want to push it. And here's the thing, you want to do as many variations as possible. One of the things that I started understanding more and more is that the first drawing is not the one you go with. And what I mean by that, I used to like all of my early portfolio stuff was literally just me, whichever whatever I drew first was the one I went with. There were no variations. There were no attempts to explore a character. I would typically I would research a character, but I still wasn't necessarily like, okay, for example, say I'm designing a character and he's a bully. The way I did this guy used to be the way I would do everything. It's like, okay, he's my first run. Okay, he looks good enough. Let's go with it, as opposed to actually settling down and just thinking about whether or not I want to add more details to this particular character. Um, or do I want to change his shape? Do I want to work on various shapes? Do I want to work on various leg shapes? All of those little things that make great characters, I wasn't doing. And so as the more I do this stuff, the more I start incorporating those things. So you want to make sure that you are, just going through the iterations. I'm not doing that here simply because I'm not trying to be, on the stream all day. Because the longer you go, the less people will watch it, and I got stuff to do. So yeah, but that's a good question though. Um, it just really depends. Some like for client work, a client will usually tell me, okay, this is the look we're going for. This is how we need this designed. Can you match this style? And it's either a yes or a no, or, depending on what you want to do, if you want to do that style or not. So hopefully that answers your question. And so I'll give them, you gotta have the 5 o'clock shadow, right? Oh, cool. No problem. Yeah, hit me up anytime. I freely share as other people freely share with me. Because I hit up, like, I ask people questions all the time, especially in the animation industry. I'll email somebody in a heartbeat. Won't even think twice about it, and you'll get ton. You'll be surprised at all the responses you get. So definitely make sure, whatever field in particular you're trying to focus on, reach out to people in that industry, talk to them, ask them as many questions as they'll answer. And and here's the beautiful thing about the internet: if they don't answer it, you can find somebody else that will. And that's the advice I would give you. And definitely just practice, keep drawing and working on your craft. The reason I do these live streams and draw live is to get myself over the fear of creating in front of other people. And and what I mean by that is sometimes, you know I know I used to be this way. I'm no longer that way. I used to just, create in my own world, so to speak, and, you know, get critique after the fact, or try to hold the gems to the treasure trove of how, I produce something. And I do these things just to get over it, just to make sure that, I don't become afraid to do anything. If it's embarrassing, meaning that, okay, the art looks stupid, or whatever, then I know it's just something I can improve upon, so I don't even worry about it. And yeah, and so, like I said, this character is not for anything in particular. So yeah, you can't see those marks, so I'll bump it up. And some leg hairs. So he's an older bully. Yep. And that'll be my wrap up for the day. Give him some angry eyes. And that's it. So hopefully you guys like the sketch session and all of that kind of stuff. Um, like, my goal for the doing the 80s hip hop style characters, I'll probably do some prints with those. I'll clean them up, add some color and some roughs or whatever. And so I'll let you know when I start banging those out. But anyway, I appreciate everybody that stopped by and to look and see how I create different things. It's really my warm up session. I got plenty of work to do tonight. But thanks for stopping by. Peace.